Joe presents TKO, together with 32 Red.
Welcome to TKO on Joe, together with 32 Red. We are in Brooklyn, New York City, outside a place that has some very special memories for you. Where are we?
This is the Barclays Center. This is where I've had my most famous win against the great Leo Santa Cruz, the best night of my career by far.
Awesome. And the real reason we're here, a little bit of nostalgia for Carl, but Brooklyn is home to the voice of Brooklyn, a man who spent many happy nights here. You were there on that night for Carl as well. David Diamante, welcome to TKO. This is home for you.
It is. Welcome to Brooklyn, guys.
Thank you so much. We're going to have a little tour of the area before going to Diamante's Brooklyn Cigar Lounge, lighting up a cigar and hearing a little bit about the history of the area, your life, and we'll talk a bit about boxing as well, I think.
Sounds great.
Sounds good. Let's do it. Awesome.
Right.
Let's head over.
But Brooklyn's got it all, man. It's an amazing place, man.
Yeah.
I've never seen a place like Brooklyn.
You lived here?
Yep, live right up here. Notorious B.I.G. is from Fulton and St. James, right down the street here. So this is Fulton Street. St. James is, 10 blocks down or something.
Wow.
So right here to the left is Spike Lee's movie studio.
So we've come inside to this incredible place, Diamante Cigar Bar. I never actually thought we'd end up coming here because we'd always talked about doing this because you've obviously worked in London so many times, which is kind of my home. And then you'd always said, oh, if there's a fight night in Brooklyn, come over. And I thought, I don't know what the chances of there being one are. Here we are, and I'm very pleased to do it. So thank you so much for having us.
I can't wait. I can't believe that you're here either. I love it. We've talked about it many times, and it's actually coming to Carl. We got the champion in the house, so
I'm loving this place.
Yeah,
I just walked in and went, my God, this is unreal. This place.
Oh, Tim's in the house. Come on in, Tim.
Big Tim from security.
Big Tim.
This is a
we
group
got,
I never
we got
thought
our
I'd see.
security here. You can comp a squad over here. He's good over
Tim,
here,
come
right?
sit down.
Yeah. Come on in. You've
So
only
for
just,
people
you've only just a little bit
listening
ruined the shot.
On the audio, Big Tim from Matchroom Security also works a lot of shows in the UK. He's over here. He's just walked into Diamante Cigar Bar. So David, we're in Brooklyn. Tell us a little bit about this area because this has been home to you and your family for a long time, isn't it?
My family came to this neighborhood in 1868, about 5 blocks away. So this area is called Fort Greene. And it's a wonderful area, man. It's close to downtown Brooklyn. It's next to Clinton Hills and Bed-Stuy. And it's just a lot of great history here. Barclays Center is right down the street. You got the family picks up on the wall. They were on Claremont Avenue. And yeah, it's cool, man. So this is my spot. I actually built this place out. So I've laid the floors, built the bar, put up the walls, everything. I mean, everything in here we put. When I came in, this floor was plywood. There were holes in the walls. And, this was kind of my vision because there was no cigar lounge in Brooklyn. It was only in Manhattan. I was a member of cigar lounges in Manhattan. So I said we need it in Brooklyn because it kind of brings the culture together. It's really cool. It's like
Hey, is it busy? Is it busy, this place?
It depends. Sometimes it is, sometimes it's not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who'd have thought when you boxed at the Barclays Center that this was 2 minutes down the road?
I'd have been in. If I'd have known.
Not before, obviously.
Not before. Well, why not? Because you're going to explain why a cigar is
so
not bad.
cigars, I mean, look, I'm not advocating. I'm not advocating for anyone to
In
smoke,
case
but
Bob Aaron's watching.
yeah. You don't inhale cigars, you just puff them. So you basically sip the smoke maybe like a fine spirit. It's really high quality tobacco that you're smoking. It's not like, it's kind of like, let's say the difference between a piece of bologna and a good steak. A piece of bologna is chopped up, snouts and hooves, and it's the lower level stuff put into a little cake there, and you throw it on a piece of bread and you eat it. A steak is obviously a fine cut of beef. And the same thing with a cigar versus a cigarette. A cigarette's it's called short filler. It's really ground up, kind of the lower level tobacco. They put chemicals on it. It's wrapped with paper, fiberglass in a filter, all this kind of stuff. And this, a real fine hand-rolled cigar is made of 3 parts. You got the filler, the binder, and the wrapper. And it's just all long filler tobacco, and it's really high quality stuff. And so there's no need to inhale this. You just puff it. Just taste it and let it go.
All right,
That's it.
let's do it, shall we?
Let's do it.
So there's a kind of process to this. Oh, okay.
Sure, I'm gonna light you here.
So what's this called that you just passed me there?
It's called a cedar spill. So it's gonna burn out if you hold it up. You gotta hold it. Nope, it's gonna burn it. There you go,
That
like
way.
that. Fire moves up. So
Yeah,
go ahead,
Absolute novice.
touch the foot.
sorry,
Feel the
pro.
light. That's it.
This is
We're in business.
this is also a tradition that's been in your family for a long time, isn't it?
Yeah, my great grandfather, my great great grandfather, they all smoked cigars.
So growing up here, were you always a fight fan as a kid as
Always,
well? Was
yeah.
boxing in the family? Or like a love of boxing in the family?
Love of boxing for sure, absolutely. Had a lot of street fights though. That's it. We grew up fighting. That's what it was. So, and my dad's from Flatbush, down the street here in Brooklyn, and my grandfather was away when he was born. He was in Korea or whatever war it was at the time, and he really never got to know my dad. And so when he came back, there was just a disconnect and old school ways, you know. And my dad grew up kind of an angry guy, getting a lot of street fights. He took it out on me. So that was like kind of in the house. You know, he never beat on my mom and my sister, but there was a lot of stuff in the house, and then the streets weren't safe. So I was an angry kid, and I was all about getting into fights. You know, it was just a way of kind of dealing with that anger.
Right. Okay. Talk to me. What's the area of Flatbush like? Because that's Lou DeBella's neighbourhood where he grew up as well, I think.
Flatbush is very different. I mean, it's changed over the years. All of Brooklyn's changed, but now you got a lot of islanders over there, Jamaicans, Trinis, Guyanese, people like that. It's a great neighborhood though. Flatbush is great, but it's an historic neighborhood. You know, I mean, Ebbets Fields from right down there on Bedford Avenue. You know,
I was hearing a lot about how New York has changed as a city in the last like 30, 40 years, and even saying Times Square, like in the 70s, how different it was. Like there was a lot of hookers, and it was just like a real. I mean, this is like the truth of the matter, isn't it? Like it's now a commercial hub for people, but that in the old days was
turning into Disneyland. But I'm telling you, as a kid, I used to go there. It was 3-card money out on the streets, hustlers, the guys with the watches in the coat. You know, you see that
The stuff you see in the films.
It's literally that's what it was.
Yeah.
Like it was amazing. All like the peep shows and the sex stores, and it was crazy, man. It was great.
Like
I mean,
Porno, basically.
Was it?
It was just porno, basically, wasn't it?
It wasn't just porno. It was like grifters, man. It was just gritty as hell, man. It was great. I mean, I miss the old New York.
Yeah.
Like the Lower East Side was one of those great neighborhoods for me, where you had obviously CBGBs, but you had like, Babyland and No Tell Motel and Coney Island High and all these like great old punk rock bars.
It's a real hipster place now, Lower East Side, isn't it?
Yeah, now it's like, you go get some tapas and a $8 shot of, espresso from Ethiopia, whatever it is, which is great, that's nice. But like back then it was like, it was gnarly, but it was great.
Gleason's is in Brooklyn, isn't it?
Yeah, it's changed locations though.
But it's only like moved literally a street away.
Went around the corner, yeah.
So I remember being there a couple of years ago, and the change even since the last time I was there is massive. Like the building that's going on around that area is amazing.
That's in Dumbo, and it stands for Down Under the Manhattan Bridge Overpass. So it's right down here, and Dumbo, like back in the day, if you had a crystal ball, you could have just thrown a rock and bought anything, and you'd be very wealthy right now.
Really?
You can't touch it. You're not buying anything down there now. It's really expensive. You got incredible views of Manhattan in great proximity. So the area just blew up, and now it's like the waterfront is gorgeous, and there's a carousel, and it's nice, man. I mean, what do you want, crime or commerce? That's how people kind of look at that. It's like this neighborhood has changed a ton. This was a really rough neighborhood. It still can be. It's still Brooklyn. Don't let the smooth taste fool you. There's a lot of stuff that goes on in Brooklyn. Don't get it twisted. But there's also just, like I'm in Bed-Stuy, and there was this club called Voodoo that opened a few years ago, and they were doing bottle service on the corner of Halsey and Nostrand, where there's shootings like constantly, and like they're doing bottle service there now. And now the place is gone. It's even gone through another change, but it's just amazing to see that.
Okay. So growing up, I mean, you've worked about as many jobs as it's possible for a person to work.
A couple.
I don't know where to really start. Just talk me through like your teenage years, your 20s. What were you doing?
What I will say is this: all these jobs that I've had over the years, and I think this is really important for not just young people, but especially young people today. It's like you have a tool belt, right? And every job you do, whether it's like a delivery guy or whether you're sweeping floors, or you're a dishwasher, whatever you are, you get a new skill set and you meet new people and you put it in your tool belt. And all those jobs that I've done over the years help me to be the entertainer or the sportscaster or the announcer that I am today, because I have worked so many jobs, whether it's a door guy or a bouncer or a bartender or working at a chicken shack or a stock boy in a factory. Like I've just done so many jobs, like you said, bike messenger. I mean, I had a lot of jobs, but I did what I had to do to pay my bills because I didn't have any backup plan. My family was not a backup plan. I left my house very young and there was no going back. So that's just what it was. So there was no backup plan for me. So it wasn't like, oh, well, I'll just call mom or dad. So it was like, I'm going to do what I can do, whether that's, doing whatever I got to do. So that's what I did. But it was, the early years were tough for me because, I kind of came up in the hardcore scene. And in Washington, D.C. at the time, I was actually living in D.C. I was actually born in Baltimore. My family's all from Brooklyn, but I was born in Baltimore. And I lived in the D.C. area. I lived in Virginia, I lived in Maryland, and I lived in D.C., where we did the show last week in the DMV. So
yeah, Usyk was supposed to headline, wasn't he?
Usyk was going to headline. Devin Haney, man. Did you see
What
the
a
fight?
fighter.
Yeah,
What a
serious.
fighter.
Guy's
Really,
unbelievable.
really
Serious.
exciting.
Guy's unbelievable.
He's only a baby as well.
20 years old.
I heard somebody talking about him on one of the forums 3-4 years ago, and I just remember the name and didn't know much about him. And of course, he's just signed for Matchroom, and now people are starting to see.
He's amazing.
Yeah.
DC was pretty rough, wasn't it? Like you hear the stories that
DC was
DC.
murder capital when I lived there. In the 80s,
So you go like a few blocks from the White House.
dude, so you
That's
got
like
four
crazy.
quadrants of DC. You got southeast, you got northeast, southwest, and northwest. Southwest was kind of more the politics, that's like the Capitol building, the museums and stuff. But southeast, the police didn't even used to go there. Yeah. Northeast was crazy, and even northwest, depending on where you were. Like DC was a great town. DC's a great town. Every city in America, this is what I love. It's not just America. Every city around the world really has different flavor. I mean, for example, like Belfast, I love your city.
Yeah.
It's an incredible town, wonderful people, a lot of great history, a lot of bad history.
Yeah.
But but either way, it's its own place, right? And it's the same with London or Nottingham or Birmingham or Newcastle or Liverpool or Manchester. All these places. You go and I'll go and look at, like in Manchester, the old hacienda. Where all that incredible music came from. It's now just an apartment building. And it's like here in Brooklyn, we got Ebbets Field where Jackie Robinson used to play, and all that, and it's public housing or whatever.
Yeah.
So it's every city has that, but in America, really every city has its character, and DC was very distinct from Baltimore, from New York, from Boston, from LA, from Texas, from Chicago. We all had our own scene, but yet they were all somewhat tied in. I came to a bunch of stuff happened that I don't necessarily want to talk about, but it was things that I was like, yo, this is not, I was really in it. I believed in that scene hard. And in a way I still do. I'm always true blue, but it's like, I just realized some of the people around me weren't like I was. I was really in it. I was ready to I was in it deep. And when I realized people didn't have my back the way I thought they did, I was disillusioned. That hurts when you feel it's like your brother. You're gonna go to war with these guys. You're ready to die for this stuff. That's just what it was. Because I had found my family in the street. Do you know what I mean? I didn't find it at home at that time. And so it was like a different feeling for me. And I was very disillusioned. And that's when I started letting my hair grow. That was in '88. I said, fuck it. And I just let my hair grow. Because I used to have real short hair.
So like 30 years.
31.
31 now.
31 years. And I moved to California because I was trying to get clean off drugs. So I was deep into that scene, which was really bad at the time, And remember, it was like, I was a poor kid. I wasn't like rich it was like PCP. And there was fucked up drugs in DC, cess, what they call cess. And it was fucked up, man. So it was a crazy time. And I moved to California, not because I knew anyone. I didn't know anyone out there. But I found, this is way before the internet. There was no internet back then. And there was a cafe called Food for Thought, man, FFT. It was cool, it was an old punk rock kind of vegan cafe, but I'm not a vegan, but it just was what it was. And there was there was a flyer on the wall that said like train ticket one way to California, $65. So I took the whole thing. You know, they had like little tabs that said, fuck, that's mine. And I called him and I said, you want me to get that ticket? You know, and I was living in a squat. I was homeless, you know, and I went out to California. I had 52 days clean. I couldn't stay clean around my old crew because it was just too, you just kept running those same guys. And I went out to California and then I relapsed. And then I, you know, was right back in it deep. But at this point, it's like they say the disease progresses and it was really bad. And I knew for sure, like, that's it. Like, I was going to end up in a body bag. It's just the way it was. I was going to die. And I was like, I didn't want this. And I ended up finally righting the ship. And then I've been sober 26 years, which is amazing, you know. Haven't had a sip off a beer or a puff off a joint in 26 years. So I smoke cigars, what I love. I like my coffee, you know.
Yeah.
But that's it, and you know, and that's kind of that little story there. But yeah, and then I started boxing out in California at King's Gym in East Oakland. And then went to some different gyms, and you know, I had done a lot of damage to my body. I love to fight. I hate to train. Hate to train. Love to fight. So yeah, I hate training, man. That's a problem, you know. Yeah. I don't know how you guys on the top level do it, because it's, to me, like being in the gym all day, running on a treadmill, hitting the bag, and doing this, doing that. It's just, it gets tedious to me. And
it is tedious. It's same to me. I look at it as, I'm enjoying boxing now, but you almost have to look at it as a job. And would you prefer to be training like 3 hours a day,
or
rather than a 9 to 5, you know, on a building site?
That's right.
And I know what I'd prefer. So
you're absolutely right. Yeah, no, for sure. But fighters are made of a different cloth. I mean, they just are, and that's, to me, I was never any type of great fighter at all. Especially, you know, talking to you, who is a great fighter and has a great history of that. But it's like, it's something that I enjoy a lot, and I respect fighters, and that's why I think I'm great at my job, because like, I know it on a lot of different levels, but as far as for the boxing, like, I truly, like, to me, it's like these guys are going through those ropes, doing things that most mere mortals cannot do. They're willing to give their lives in the ring. The least you could do is say their goddamn name correctly.
Yeah. Well,
give them the respect. That's the least you could do, you know? And so, you know, I love it, you know?
So at what point did you first get into announcing, and how did it happen?
Well, in '88, I DJ'd at a radio station in D.C., a little college radio station. So I was on the microphone, and I was a drummer. So I was playing in like punk rock bands and different stuff. I played in a lot of bands, played jazz bands when I was a little kid. I played drums since a young age. So I was a drummer, and I was into like the music scene. And so I kind of understood microphones and sound levels and just acoustics and music in general. Now, I was never a singer. I've never tried to be a singer. But people always told me I had a good voice, and I didn't want to be a singer. It was never what I wanted to do. So I never thought about it. I was like, okay, that's cool. Thanks. You know, and it never sunk in. My grandma used to tell me, you know, you have such a great voice, you know, and I got pictures of her up on the wall here, but she used to always tell me that, and it never sunk in. But when I started boxing, I thought, fuck, this isn't gonna work out. So I wanted to find a way. Oh, so back to I was doing DJing, so I had those skills. And when I went out to California, I was actually working as a bouncer in a lot of nightclubs. And I worked at all these different clubs, from the Trocadero to the Paradise, to the bottom of the hill, to the Tornado, all these different places I worked. And I got an offer to DJ. And again, at that point, this was a long time ago, DJing was not a big thing. So I was like, I don't want to DJ. Like, that doesn't sound like, you know, whatever. So I was working the door, and it was cool, because at the door you had like power, you know. It was like, you tell people who could come in. It was a different time, you know. It was cool. It was the club scene. And by happenstance, I ended up at this club, and it was the guy that had offered me a job, and he was like, you know, go behind. So I went behind the ones and twos. I started DJing, and he's like, you know, look, if you want this gig, you can do it. So I said, all right, I'll try it out. So I did, and I couldn't believe the money I was making. It was so much, like, dude, I was working a door for $50 a night. $50 a night is what I used to get, you know, to work a door, to get in fist fights. Yeah. I got in fist fights over $50 a night. And I used to clean pint glasses. I'd go around and stack up pint glasses, bring them to bartenders. Bartenders never tipped me out. You know, they never tipped out the door guys. You know, we just worked, man. That's what we did. And we fought for the club like it was like, you know, and these were clubs, like, there was a lot of things going on, man. They were rough clubs, different clubs. I can tell you stories. The riot police shut down some of these clubs. These huge fights. I'd be taking a guy One time I'm walking down, the bartender's like, yo, him out. So I see some guys, I'm like, fuck it. So I just yoke him up. So I get him, I'm taking him out, and the bartender jumps over and punches him in the face as I'm holding him. And the guy, like, I was like, what are you doing, bro? I threw him through the triple doors, got him outside. The whole place erupted like a powder keg. One time, I was at the Paradise Lounge, and we had like 4 different stages. It was a big club, great club. Like, saw Kurt Cobain in there, walking through. Like, a lot of people came through that club. But one time there was some guy causing a problem on the floor, so I yoked him up. And as I was taking him down, I didn't have any backup at that time because they were in the other part of the club. And I started feeling something on my head, like hitting me, but it wasn't a fist. Turns out it was the drummer's brother. The drummer jumped off stage and started hitting me with drumsticks in the head. So it turned into this massive brawl, and the other door guys came, and we ended up beating these guys up, breaking their instruments out on the street. It was crazy, man. Wow. It was all kinds of stories like this, but it was $50 a night. So now here I am DJing, and I'm like, oh, this is cool, man. And I'm making a lot of money and just playing records. I'm like, this is great. So I was on the microphone. But back to your story about how did I do the announcing, I was on the microphone. So I'm doing the emceeing, and ladies and gentlemen, check it out, here we are. And and everyone's like, yo, your voice, people listened. Yeah. It was weird. I kind of liked it. It was fun, and I seemed to have a knack for it. And I understood because, again, being in the studio, and I know, like, I played drums with Kirk from Metallica. I gave him drum lessons. I've been in the studio with George Clinton in Parliament. No. He's been in here. He smoked in here, man. Great guy. But I know all kinds of guys. This is California. It's the music scene. A lot of great guys, and so I just had an ear for this stuff, and I was really digging it. And of course, I love the fight scene. Always sick with the fights. Always watching the fights. And I said, and I loved the announcers. I loved like the pageantry of these guys with the pinky ring and this. They're in the debonair with the ring card girls next to them. And I just thought that's fucking proper cool, man. Like that's the best. I literally because I don't want a real job. Like you were saying, what would you rather do? Yeah. You rather train 3 hours a day or work a 9 to 5? Yeah. And I've never really had like I don't think I've ever had like just a regular 9. I never have. I mean, I've always worked. I've worked a ton, but doing different stuff.
Like different jobs, bits and...
different jobs. Yeah. So I thought like, what's the best job in the world? I was like, man, being a ring announcer would just really...
Yeah, it's got to be up there, isn't it?
Because like you're the one that like you get the decision before anyone. You're like, and I'm really, if you watch me, because sometimes like TV wants to know, and I'm like, no. Yeah. Like I get it, and like I don't want anyone to know, and I'll read it, and I take it really serious because I don't want to ruin the spoil it for each one of these warriors that just went toe to toe, and for the crowd, like that's that suspense.
Yeah, because that moment's hugely important.
You'd often look for the ring announcer to see if there's any, depending on who it is, like
of course,
any sort of inclination, but very, very rarely.
Got to keep it really like, yeah, man, and then you got to know how to read a decision. That kills me when a guy doesn't know how to read a decision. That kills me. From a split draw to majority decisions. Yeah. There's ways to do it. There's a proper way and a wrong way. But anyway, so I was like, look, there's no way I'll ever be on TV, looking the way I do or doing what I do. But I wanted to do it. I love boxing. I wanted a way to stay involved with the sport. So that's what I did. And I started doing it on a very low level. And I started doing the Golden Gloves, the Metros, just the amateurs. And I worked the amateur circuit for years. And, it's one of those things where I knew boxing really well, but when you're on the inside and the trainers and the cut men and the doctors and the timekeeper and the guy that sets up the ring, and it's not just about the fighters. It's not, no offense. It's about the whole family. You know this, right? Yeah. We're a family. Like you're a part of it too. We're all a part of it. And the circus comes to town, and it's like, here we are, we're all here, and we all play our role. We're all cogs in this really incredible machine. Of course, you guys are the stars, and everyone must respect that, because it's really about what you guys do. But we're all a part of it, and the ring announcer, to me, is that pageantry. I always loved it. So, that's why I do what I do. It wasn't like, I was this great announcer, and then I decided, I got a job in boxing. No, I'm a boxing nut. I'm a boxing nut. That was how do I stay involved in it? Okay, I love the announcers. I've got a good voice. I'm cool being on stage. I got a big set of balls. that. I really don't give it. I just don't. I'll go for it. I always have. And I mean, even by the travel that I do, I'll do whatever. Yeah. I should be dead many times over, and I don't say that lightly. That's just what it is. I've been shot. I've been locked up overseas. I've been through a lot of stuff in my life. I've had guns pulled on me in many different times, different places. I've been in a lot of crazy spots. So for me, this is all borrowed time. Like, I'm loving this, man. I'm loving this. I'm high on life every day. I'm sober 26 years and I've never been higher.
Yeah.
You know, I'm high all the time.
You don't.
So I love what I do.
Yeah, you actually don't sleep very much. I mean, when you come over for fight weeks, you will finish your day, and you're quite a night owl. I mean, often I'll get a message from you. I'll wake up, because I've been in bed for 2.5 hours. I'll wake up and there's a message from you at 12:30 saying, where are you? I'm at a bar I've gone to like northwest London. I've met a load of people. We've then gone over to this place. And I'm like, I'm knackered. I've had 2.5 hours sleep already.
Yeah.
And you're getting at 3, 4 o'clock, having jet lag or whatever.
Yeah.
And you'll do the next day and you'll do the same thing the next night.
Yeah.
I mean,
I love it, man. I don't know what it is. I got an engine, man. I just love to go. I love to go. I feel like I'm a shark. If I stop, I'll die. I love it. I love going. I love what we do. As long as it's stuff I like. You understand?
Yeah.
It's got like boxing and travel and being around good people, positive energy. Like, I fuck with that. I like that. That's what I like to do. You know, that's my thing.
You're listening to TKO on Joe from New York City with David Diamante, me, Chris Lloyd and Carl Frampton. You can subscribe via the usual channels. Now here's Nick Bright and Graham Swan with news from something else from Joe.
Can you remember your favourite sledge ever, the best you've ever heard that you won't get sued for saying, or we won't get sued for saying?
No, it was probably Dennis Lilly. You know, I'd been playing and missing like that, and he came up to me and said, "Hey, mate, do me a favour." And just before he went like this with his forehead, and he flicked over and hit me straight in the face. I could taste the rum and ginger you had the night before. And he said, not in quite these words, a little bit heavy, he said, "Mate, do me a favour, hold the bat still and I'll aim at the effing thing." And then you had Rodney Marsh standing at the back of the stage. He turned around, he said, "Have you got any family, mate?"
Thanks, guys. Make sure you check out Swanee's Cricket Show on Joe. Back here in David Diamante's Cigar Lounge in New York City. Can't quite believe we're here. You were the announcer for the Brooklyn Nets.
Yes.
For how many years? 7?
6 years.
6 years.
6 years. So yeah.
So how did that come about?
Well, it came about because Brooklyn hadn't had a team since the 50s. My mother always said the day that the Dodgers left, she said it was the worst day. She said it was terrible. The city basically fell into a doldrums because Brooklyn loved the bums, the Dodgers, you know, and they moved. They moved to Los Angeles, and so the city went through this tough time. And I always remember my mom talking about it. And the moment that Jay-Z had talked about bringing the Nets here, a professional sports team, the first team since the 1950s, the Brooklyn Dodgers, to be here, I said, that's incredible. And as much as, I'm a sports guy. I like pretty much all sports. Yeah. Boxing, my number one, hands down, not even a question. But I like competition. I like competition. So I do like sports, and I've played a lot of sports. You know, I've never been a great sportsman, but I like to play. So I thought, well, that'd be great, you know, to be the announcer for the team in Brooklyn and represent my borough that I love so much. So I contacted the team, and they had already done this massive audition. There was like over 400 people came out for it, and they had whittled it down to like 20 of these guys that were like the kind of creme de la creme. And I was out of town when they had done that, and I read about it in the paper, but I called up and I talked to the guy, and he's like, "Nah, we already did this." And I said, "Yeah, I think I'd be pretty good though." He's like, "Nah, you know, we already did this." And I said, "I think I'd be pretty good though." And he goes, "All right, look, you want to send me something? I'll take a look at it." So I sent him a nice letter. He calls me back immediately. He's like, "Dude, you're Dave Diamante." He's like, "Yeah, I fucking love your work." He's like, "I watch you all the time. You're awesome in boxing." And I was like, "Oh, cool." And he goes, "Look, I'd love to have you come down for the finals to see, you know, what you could do." And we went down, and it was a pretty rigorous process. And I was really honest. I had never called any basketball, let alone NBA. You know, I'd never done it on any type of level, not even a high school game. So I told him, I said, "Listen, I've never called a game before, but, you know, this is what I do." And we went through it, and I know the sport, and I called the action, whatever, and then I got the offer, and I said, well, talk to my lawyer. So we had to get that right. And then we went through all what we need to go through, and I signed a multi-year contract with the team, and I became the voice of the NBA Brooklyn Nets, and I also became the voice of the Barclays Center, of which you've obviously fought there. Yeah. It's a billion-dollar arena right down the street here. When I put this place here, this was before Barclays was even here. You know, the neighborhood's changed a lot.
Did you work that night? Because I know Jimmy Lennon done the main.
Jimmy did the main, I did the undercard.
Oh, you were on the undercard that night?
Yeah,
wow.
I think I did the undercard because I was ringside, yeah. And I remember Barry, I know you're not with Barry anymore, right?
No.
But Barry Mcguigan, you were with him then.
Yeah, it was, yeah.
And Barry, you know, you could say what you want about the guy. You know, me personally, I get along great with him, but that's neither here nor there. But Barry is a true boxing man. And Barry, I think, fought just as much as you did that night. He was on the side of the, Leo, hit him with the right, hit him with the left, hit him with the right. You know, I mean, he's very passionate, you know. And, you know, so, yeah, that was an amazing night. I'll never forget it. It was great. And it was also, tell me about this. I know I'm not to switch but it's a little bit tough. You know, obviously Leo Santa Cruz was going through that stuff with his pops.
Yeah.
And that's hard because obviously, you know, look, you're a great guy. You're a human being. You go in the ring, you got to do what you got to do.
It's a fight, that's
it's
it.
It's a fight,
I remember the question was brought up to me before about...
Oh, it was, okay.
Yeah, just about Leo and his dad. And I went, look, well, he's still in the fight, you know, until he pulls out. I'm not really thinking about his dad and how harsh as that sounds.
No,
you know, I wish his dad and stuff well, but in the fight...
Yeah, you compartmentalize.
I'm only thinking about Leo Santa Cruz and beating him. Nothing else is entering my mind.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Great fight, great performance. It was an incredible night. Yeah, it was
great.
Yeah, what are your memories of that, Matt?
Big fan base, being a massive underdog, going into the fight. A lot of guys coming here and making a lot of noise. Seen some videos from people walking, like they met up in a bar in Brooklyn somewhere, all my support, and they walked like 3/4 of a mile wherever they walked to the arena.
Yeah.
And I seen some of the footage, but the atmosphere was brilliant.
Yeah,
like,
unbelievable.
I think it was maybe 2,000 fans that travelled, but they sound like 10,000. You know, they make a lot of noise.
You got a lot of Irish fans in New York as well.
Yeah, of course, and that was I think part of the reason I just signed with Al Heyman. So that was part of the reason to come to the East Coast. Big Irish boxing community here.
Yeah.
And they kind of latched on as well, which is great.
Great fight as well.
Yeah.
How did you feel in the fight? Did you feel like you were?
I felt like I won the fight at the end. I felt like I'd done enough. It was a good fight, and I just felt like I knew. I felt like I controlled the distance well most of the time, but I knew at times I was going to have to stand and have a fight and kind of try and match his work rate because he's a very high-paced fighter. I feel like I'd done it well enough and I was landing the cleaner shots. It was a close fight, but I felt like I deserved to win it. Second fight was a close fight. I felt like Leo deserved to win it. So, yeah, two pretty good fights, I thought.
Yeah,
absolutely. Fans loved it. Fans loved it.
Yeah.
I can attest to that. It was a hell of a night.
A third would be nice, wouldn't it?
Definitely. That's I've been talking about it for a long time, but
do you feel like he's swerving it a little bit?
I don't think he's swerving it. No, I think it's just kind of again politics, which we see in the sport. We spoke about the heavyweight division and stuff a lot recently, but Leo's like any other boxer. He's like a fighting man. If he's asked to fight me or his promotional team say you're going to fight Carl Frampton, he would happily fight me again. I know that for a fact, but there's politics behind the reason why the fight hasn't happened for the third time.
How did you get on with him?
He's okay. I like his brothers and stuff. I actually met his brothers Mayweather against McGregor in Vegas, and they tried to get me to go on the drink and take shots with him and stuff. But I was with Christine, so I take shots. I go off the rails so I didn't want to leave her on her own. So I left it.
Yeah.
They're good people.
I like that you say you control the distance. I think that's something that fighters don't. Like when you see a guy really a talented fighter, it's such a big part of the fight game. Is it's like in real estate they say, look, what are the 3 rules of real estate? Location, location, location. It's really the same with boxing too, right? Location, location, location. Your distance is really important.
It's very, very important, especially for a shorter guy like me. Yeah. It's important that I can control the distance. Yeah,
really important in boxing. And we talk about Devin Haney briefly, but he controlled that distance so well. And these young guys that you see that are very talented, you can see that.
Yeah,
it's a great skill.
Yeah,
it is. Fucking hell.
You getting stoned off this?
Yeah, no, I'm just enjoying it. I'm just enjoying listening. I'm just chilling.
Oh, I gave you the wrong ones. No, there's something else in them.
Yeah, crikey.
Yeah,
you got a bed. I can have
so these are my own cigars. So I got a little factory outside of Santiago in Dominican Republic. That's where these are rolled. And these are the mild chisels. And the shape is made by a guy named Lito Gomez. And this is our blend of them. And it's great smoke.
I love a cigar.
Yeah.
Like I enjoy a cigar every now and again. I've got a few in the house, and people buy me them from every so often. Yeah. And I like a wee puff of a cigar.
Yeah,
and I know
nice.
people are going to be going, what is Carl Frampton doing smoking a cigar on the podcast? But as we explained earlier on, you don't even inhale it.
Yeah, just puff on it.
We should all be smoking cigars.
Well, I don't ever advocate for anyone to smoke.
One thing you've always said to me is, it's kind of like a fight week tradition. Friday night, we'll have a cigar and conversation.
Yeah, we do.
You say it's like something that creates conversation, and like, what does it do for you?
So I have a thing that I came up with here that is like my little, conversation, contemplation, celebration.
Yeah.
So those are like the 3 great reasons to smoke a cigar. Obviously we're having a great conversation over cigars.
Yeah.
Sometimes
You go and do it in your own note too. It's great. Just sit and
a little
get lost in
contemplation
your own thoughts.
and think about your day, or think about what you have to do coming up. It's like we talked about compartmentalizing. That's really big for me. But I have so many different things going on at one time and have to be in so many different places. Like even just this week, it's like I've got obviously the press conference and the open workout and then the weigh-in, and then I'm hosting the BWAA on Friday night, and we have the fight Saturday. Then I'm heading up to Canastota for the International Boxing Hall of Fame, and it just doesn't stop. There's so many things. But one way that and there are a lot, and I'm obviously dealing with my business, and there are a lot of other things that I do, but I try to put everything kind of in its place and prioritize and handle it. And cigars are kind of my way of meditation.
Yeah, gives you that like pause button amidst the pace of what we're doing.
It's important. It's like a way to stop and smell the roses. To me, it's a hobby, not a habit.
Yeah.
Like a cigarette is like a habit. You rush
yeah.
out and you huff down your cigarette, like some type of addict. But a cigar, like if I don't have time, I don't smoke. I need time. I don't want to be busy smoking a cigar. That's not. I want to take my time, give this tobacco its just due. From seed to box, a cigar is a beautiful handmade product, And again, it's not for everyone. I'm not advocating for cigars, but it's why I love them.
Yeah.
There's a big history to tobacco, and it's.
I think you look very, very cool when you're smoking a cigar as well.
Me particularly, or just anyone?
Well, not you.
No, thanks. 3 or so years ago, the Sauerland brothers put together the World Boxing Super Series. Great concepts, tournament format, best fighters in the world, aiming to kind of unify and create undisputed champions in some case. You knew, there was a huge kind of budget put into this. It was an ambitious project,
Sure.
one that has kind of done very, very well in the last 3 years on the whole.
Right.
At what point, because that was the first time I saw you in action as a boxing announcer, at what point did they get hold of you? How did that job come about?
So I've been boxing announcing for close to 20 years. And I've done it for so many different promoters around the world, whether Bob Arum, Golden Boy, Roy Jones Jr., Mayweather, Evander Holyfield, Joe DeGuardia, Lou DiBella, Samson Lukowicz. I've announced for a ton of promoters over the years. And they were looking for someone, Buffer was kind of known as HBO's guy. Lennon was kind of known as Showtime's guy. And the Super Series really wanted their own guy. And when they came to me, they were like, look, we view you as the big announcer in the world, the young guy coming up. They liked my work, and they wanted something that was their own. It was great. I was doing a lot of different fights at the time, and the Super Series, I love that concept, right? Because it's all about like an unmuddied lake, with all these sanctioning bodies, and all these different belts with the emeritus and the interim and the super and the regular and the this and the that and sometimes it's hard even forget a casual, but even for a deep boxing fan, it can be confusing. Like, who really is the champ?
Yeah.
Well, hold on, what's going on here? It can be very confusing, and so to me, it's like we want an unmuddied lake, and something like the Super Series, like we saw with the cruiserweights, it was just wonderful that all the guys with the belts got in there. Man, those amazing fights. We were very, very fortunate to have that. And of course, Usyk is the guy that rose to the top.
The best.
It was the best
series.
Unreal
Yeah.
to order,
It was just the best.
The cruiserweights was
It was just
amazing.
the best. It was incredible, and Vlodarchik and, Mairis Briedis, and you had Junior Dorticos, and you had Murat Gassiev, and these guys were just killers,
That
man.
fight, that Dorticos Gassiev 12th round was unbelievable.
Dude, it was unreal.
Unbelievable.
It was unreal.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you, Russia, man, they gave us so much love. Doing fights there is amazing.
Yeah.
I love going to Russia. Like it's a great place. I mean, I loved it. You know, we did fights in Sochi, we did fights in Moscow. I went to St. Petersburg during the World Cup because I had to go up there. What a beautiful city, man! The Hermitage Museum, and it's built on a series of canals. So taking jet skis throughout the city, you know, and oh, so cool, man. And in the summertime, they have what's called white nights. It doesn't really get dark because they're so high up on the globe. So it's got to be pretty miserable in the wintertime, but we were there. I was there in the summertime. It was great. You know, 4 a.m, it's bright out and you're hanging out at the nightclubs. It was great. So I had a great time there, but they were very supportive. The boxing scene there, the fans really like boxing. They really get very behind it. So that was great. The concept is great, and I hope it continues. And I mean, look, we just saw a great fight, Josh Taylor against Ivan Baranchik, and we're going to get another great one with
Regis Prograis.
With Regis Prograis. And I mean,
Inouye
like
and Donaire fight as well.
Yeah. And what do you? I mean, let's go back to you, a guy that has fought Donaire.
Yeah.
I actually hung out with Nonito in Cebu.
He's a great guy.
He's a great guy.
Me and Nonito have become pretty good friends since we fought, and we've actually been around each other quite a bit. And he hung out with me in Belfast. And then we travelled together to Glasgow to watch the Inouye fight.
Oh, you were there? Great.
Yeah, I was
about
there.
this guy, huh?
Inouye's a monster. He's really frightening.
Yeah.
He's frightening. Watching him up close, his power is something else, and it is frightening. But I spoke to Donaire about him fighting him in the final.
Sure.
And he made a fair point. Inouye is obviously a serious puncher, and when he hits people, he hurts them, and he's hurting very good fighters. But when Donaire hits you clean, he puts you to sleep.
Yeah, for sure.
And he said that to me. He said, look, I put these guys to sleep. I make them do little twitches on the ground.
Donaire's class.
He's an unreal fighter. And I
Donaire's
think
class.
he's seen a new lease of life at bantamweight. I think that it's a difficult fight, but everyone sees Inouye as a strong favourite and he's going to blow Donaire away. I don't see it like that.
Yeah, it should be an interesting fight. I can't wait to see it. I went to the Philippines years ago and hung out with Donaire in Ala Boxing Gym where he trains. And it was an amazing experience. It's like, you can't just go in there. It's like, it's this compound. And it's like, you know, they have to know you're coming and they got to get you this pass. And there's these gates with barbed wire. And so there's a guard at the front and they check your name. Okay, you're good. And so then you get your pass and you go in there and you just walk down this like old dirt road. And there's like some, you know, old sunken boat that's like laying on the ground and there's dogs running around here. What the hell's going on here? And then you come upon this clearing and it's nothing but like, you know, 100 bags hanging and these boxing rings and there's just like, you know, it's what seems like 100 guys, you know, just train. You're like, whoa, this is incredible, man. Really like wild, you know, and it was great. It was great to see him there in the Philippines. And yeah he's a great fighter. And I love the idea of the Super Series and what they're doing. I think it's great that it's been picked up on Sky and that the fans can watch these fights. It's important. It's important for our sport.
And of course, you then got the call off the back of your work there when Matchroom kind of set Matchroom USA up and they did the deal with DAZN. And of course, you now are exclusive to them, both sides of the pond. With your good friend Michael Buffer, who I know has kind of been like I suppose, mentor to you, but he's obviously been the main guy in the sport for years and years and years.
Sure.
That must be an amazing privilege to share that kind of job with someone like him who has seen and done it all at that level.
It's like opening for the Rolling Stones every night.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He's the guy, man. I mean, I love Michael, and we've known each other for a really long time. We've gotten along great from the beginning. The first time we ever met, it's a great story. I don't know if I should tell it here, but I met him at Madison Square Garden in the bowels of the building. This was before a big fight. I was backstage at the Garden and I was walking by and there was an open door and Michael was in there and I went in to talk to him and he wasn't looking. He didn't see who it was. And I said, yo, Michael, I just wanted to say hello. And he was like, I'm busy. And then I said, oh, okay, I'm a ring announcer. I just want to say hi. And he turns to me and he goes, David, come on in. He goes, I was just talking about you at dinner tonight. And I said, with all due respect, I think you're lying. He says, no, actually, I was having dinner with Thomas Hauser tonight, and we were actually talking about you. It was just amazing, and the whole thing. And I had written him a letter years before because when he was diagnosed with throat cancer, I didn't know him personally, but I as someone in the boxing community, I said some prayers for him, and I just wanted to send him some words of strength. So I sent him a nice letter saying, listen, you know, I'm behind you, and you're going to do great. You're going to pull through, and you know, we're praying for you, and you know, we love you, stuff like that. And I sent him this letter, never heard back. And he says, you know, I got your letter, and I really appreciate it. It was amazing.
Yeah.
You know, and it was very cool. And we've got a great. It's funny because Michael was never my favorite announcer. I think he's great at what he does, without a doubt. But Ed Darian was always my favorite guy.
Yeah, we've used that
I loved
before.
Ed Darian. I loved Mark Biro. I loved Johnny Addy. And you know, I say the names twice. It's a New York thing. It's an old New York thing. They used to do that with all the fights. And I even, you know, this is another reason I don't really talk about too. But I just, again, it's like you say something like New York, the city's so nice. They named it twice. But it's like, when a fighter's in there and you say a guy's name, you know, you're like Frampton, and the crowd's they can't really even hear it because there's just so much noise. But afterwards, it's like Frampton, like you just, it's like it indels it on their mind, like, you know, like this is the guy that's in there.
No, Boazzi absolutely loves it when you do it, and you guys have like a kind of thing. He waits for it, and he says, you go Boazzi, and then he waits for the second one. And he says to him, it's like, okay,
now we're ready to go.
Now we're ready, yeah.
And I love that. And what a talent this guy is. He is just scary at 175, man. Wow. This guy from Croydon, man, he can fight.
There was a guy back home, he used to do club shows, amateur club shows, and he kind of travelled around Ireland. And normally at a boxing show, you would just get one of the coaches or someone involved in the club to go and say, in the red corner, blah, blah, blah. But this guy used to wear a full tux.
Yeah.
You know, shiny shoes, looked the part, hair nice.
Nice.
And he always called the fighters into the room.
I'm just kidding. His name was Mike Goodall.
And his name,
by the way, shout out to Mike Goodall, the hardest working man in boxing. We love Mike. And he was a hell of a compere.
His name was Harry McGavick.
Okay.
And very, very good MC. And when you were a kid, you know, he used to introduce me in the ring when I was, you know, 8, 9, 10 years old, and he always made a nickname up for you.
Oh,
but he
great.
always said your surname twice as well.
He did. Nice.
He always said it.
Yeah, it's a classic boxing thing. It to me, it's the correct music for it.
Yeah.
Like when I hear, like I think Lennon is such class. I think Buffer's such class. These guys are amazing. They really are. They're great. I love all these announcers. I think they're all great, man. I like listening to these guys. It's a lot of fun. I think we all have our own styles, and there's room for everyone. So I love it. But I mean, Jimmy and Michael are, of course, especially great, and I love the way they announce. But I'm always waiting for that second name, and I don't hear it. It doesn't.
But that's
sound
part
right
of
to
your
me.
identity and your brand. So that's, you know.
Yeah, now it really is.
Yeah.
Now it really is. But like before, I didn't even think about it like that. It was just the proper way to do it.
Yeah,
that's how I looked at it. It was always, this is the proper way to do it. You don't do it without doing the surname twice. It was just, this is how you announce boxing to me, you know. And it's become this big thing, which is great, you know. But it's great. I mean, I love what Matchroom Boxing is doing, and I think that I've said this before, but I truly believe, you know, Eddie Hearn is such an incredible guy, and I feel like he's really just kind of given mouth to mouth to the boxing scene in England. And I know that fans want the big fights now, and they want this now, but like, this guy's planting seeds with guys like PBK and guys like Jordan Gill and guys like Ted Cheeseman and guys like Buatsi and, you know, all these young guys coming up, because guys like Hay and guys like Calzaghe and Hatton and Lewis, you know, we don't have those guys right now. And there's this whole new, you know, Dalton Smith just turned pro, and there's all these new young guys coming up, and Eddie's giving them a platform. It's not just about Eddie. There's a lot of guys that do it, but Eddie really is, he's really put his money where his mouth is. And I think that he gets a hard time from the fans, but they should really understand that you can't always make those big fights. And I think he's trying to make them all the time, but sometimes it's not just about him. It takes two to tango, right? And that's another thing, if we want to talk about just for a second, the heavyweight division, which is on all of our minds, especially as boxing fans, because they say boxing goes the way of the heavyweight. And of course, we've got the three big guys at the top. But it's like, it's not just for the fans, but for the fighters, man. Like, you want, you know, who are you without these fights with Santa Cruz, or without these
fights,
right? You need the right, you know,
antagonist for your.
Absolutely. Yeah. You know, it's like Muhammad Ali's not going to be great without all these great opponents, without the Sonny Listons and the Joe Frazier's and all these guys, the George Foremans and the Ken Nortons, and these fights that they need to happen. So it's important for these guys, and not only that, for their pocketbooks too. Like, look, you have a good fight. Let's say you lose. If you fight like a warrior, then you have a rematch.
Yeah.
Then you might do well. Then you have a rubber match. There's
That's
more
the
money to
problem.
go
Though.
around.
There's too much made out on the zero, you know, and people look at it too much. But if it's a good fight, and you go out on your shield, and people want to see it again, I don't
100%.
think it matters.
I'm totally with you, Carl. Totally agree.
Yeah, agreed. We have a section on the podcast, the 32-second challenge, sponsored by 32 Red. I'm just going to take that from our producer, Si. So this, David, is a simple word association. So I've got a list of words here, and I'm going to read them out to you one by one. And when you hear the word, I just want you to say the first thing that comes into your head.
Okay.
All right? So first word is cigars.
Birch sugar.
The best cigar.
Diamantes.
Boxing.
Passion, love, my life.
Motorbikes.
Oh my God, I can't live without them. It's like
Everything.
It's like riding a magic carpet. I mean, it's my key to the world, man. Yeah, it's two-wheeled therapy, man.
Two-wheel therapy, I like it. Travel.
Necessary.
Hair.
I mean, to me, it's not about how you wear your hair, it's what's inside your head. But at the same time, they say your hair is like almost like tentacles to the outside. And I think that's why I'm really in tune with a lot of stuff. It's one of maybe possibly the reason. But it's really not about your hair, man. I could have a shaved head right now, I'd be the same cat, you know.
Ring announcing.
It's like bringing the crowd into it, bringing the fighters into it. You know, ladies and gentlemen, the world title's aligned. Get up and support these fighters. This is the 12th and final round. And this guy's on his stool spent, and he's like, that's right. You know, and he just gets out on, you know, it's just like, yeah, giving fighters a respect, man.
Rock or jazz?
I mean, it's all about, obviously jazz, but it's about jazz. Jazz is it's more, there's more nuance, but it's music. It's all about context, right? So it's like, that's like saying, like, you know, do you want chocolate or pistachio, or a strong cigar or a mild cigar? It depends what I had for dinner. It depends what I'm drinking with it. It depends on a lot of things.
Brooklyn.
Heart, man, heart.
And I'm going to finish it on this one. What one word would you say to the young David Diamante?
Yo, stay the course, man. Hold on, white knuckle it, stay fast, because it's a beautiful life right now, man. I feel so blessed, you know. All that anger I had as a young guy just turned to gratitude, and I feel very blessed to do what I do. I literally, like, I feel retired, even though I don't know anyone that works. I mean, I know a couple guys that work as hard as me, but I don't really know anyone that works harder than me. And it's like, but I feel like I never work a day in my life because I just love it. That's, I think, why I'm so energized. I love what I do.
How cool is this big?
Unreal. I've loved it. Really, just being in here. We get here before you, and just walking in this place. Class, just class everywhere.
Yeah.
I
David,
appreciate it.
thank you so much for coming
Guys,
on the show.
I'm honored, man. Thank you so much for coming through, man.
Awesome.
Chris, Carl.
Thanks, man.
Yeah, I
Thank
really
you.
appreciate it, mates.
Absolute pleasure. Absolute
Great
pleasure.
stuff.
Huge thanks to David Diamante for having us in his cigar lounge. This has been TKO on Joe, together with 32 Red. Thanks for your company. And as always, we'll see you again with another guest in 7 days' time.
You've been watching TKO on Joe, together with 32 Red.